To the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. I'm R.C. Drews, and I welcome you to this live broadcast from the Fergus Falls City Hall. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, and we hope you'll leave tonight informed on your candidates for local office so that you can vote with confidence in November. Tonight's event is brought to you by the Fergus Falls Daily Journal, Layton Broadcasting Company, and PEG Access Television of Fergus Falls. On behalf of our sponsors, a reminder that you can subscribe to the Daily Journal digital and print editions by visiting their website at www.fergusfallsjournal.com or by stopping into their new office within the historic Carnegie Building at 125 North Union. And check out their app, available on the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. You can catch this event on Layton Broadcasting's AM 1250 KBRF, but make sure to check out their sister stations, Real Rock Z103.3 FM, 96.5 FM KJ Country, and Channel 977 FM. And of course, catch this and more televised coverage of local news on local channels 8 and 18 from PEG Access. Tonight's event represents the concerns of all Otter Tail County with candidates for County Commissioner in Districts 1, 3, and 5. Our evening will begin with Dan BUCHOLZ and Betsy RODER, candidates for District 1, which represents the northeast quarter of the county, including the cities of Perham, New York Mills, and Richville. Then, in approximately 30 minutes, Kurt Mortensen and Christine TUNGSETH will debate in the race for District 3, representing the county's southwest corner and the cities of Battle Lake, Dalton, and Underwood. Finally, in approximately 1 hour, incumbent Lee Rogness and challenger Angie Brown will take the stage in the District 5 contest, representing the city of Fergus Falls. So, with the preamble out of the way, let's get to the debate. The questions for tonight's debate have been written by myself and have not been shared with anyone to include any candidate, campaign, or media partner. As such, these questions are my own and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of our media sponsors or their affiliates. Candidates, as we begin, you will be given 3 minutes for opening statements before we move to the debate questions. During the questioning phase, responses will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker, unless otherwise specified. When you see our official in the front row waving a yellow flag, you have 1 minute remaining. A red flag means only 10 seconds remain, and should you exceed the maximum time limit, our official will hold up a white flag, and it will be my responsibility to interrupt. We ask that you be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and to the audience. Also, a note that while any opposing candidate is speaking, you have the opportunity to move for a rebuttal. In that case, we will allow 30 seconds for rebuttal and afford one final response from the original speaker if they choose before moving on. With that said, Mr. BUCHOLZ, our alphabetical seating means that you have the floor and 3 minutes for your opening statements, sir.
All right. My name is Dan BUCHOLZ. I'm running for Otter Tail County Commissioner, District 1. I want to thank RC and the Fergus Falls paper for having this event tonight. And I also want to thank the Minnesota Twins for finding a way to lose their 18th straight game, so we are not preempted tonight. And another thing is I'm a lifelong resident of Gorman Township. I'm a 63-year-old dairy farmer. I own property on the north shore of Little Pine Lake. My father was James BUCHOLZ. He was county commissioner in the 60s and the early 70s, and he passed away coming to a county commissioner meeting. And so I've been dairy farming for 45 years. I took over the family farm in 75, and I've been there ever since. I'm a 45-year member of the Co-op Association, patron of the Milk Association. I was 2004 Conservation Farmer of the Year. I'm married. My wife is Andrea. We've been married for 35 years. She's the Dean of Education up in Mayville, North Dakota School. I have 2 children. I have a daughter that's a YMCA, a CEO in the YMCA in Alexandria, and I have a son that's a project manager in Hammers Construction in Perham. And I've been busy over the last, just being dairy farmer, tough job. So I know all about getting up and work, and we'll be okay. And I'm very nervous about this too, if you guys haven't figured this out yet. The only people I talk to are the only ones I talk to are my cows, and the only time they talk to me is when they need to be milked or when they need to be fed. So that's the only answer I got to. All right. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Ms. RODER, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Betsy RODER. I want to thank all of our hosts here tonight and my opponent here, Dan, for coming. This is a great opportunity to get information out to voters. I'm really passionate about being informed as a voter, so happy to be here and thank you. So I was born and raised in New York Mills. I left for college and lived in Minneapolis for 10 years, worked at Target headquarters during that time, and then I became a rural rebounder in 2011. So that's returning to my hometown to raise my own family. I do have 4 children, ages 6 to 13. I'm married to Nick RODER. He works at Farmers and Merchants State Bank in New York Mills, and he's a volunteer firefighter and first responder in New York Mills. I have a degree in finance from Valparaiso University in Indiana and an MBA from the University of St. Thomas. I've been on the New York Mills City Council for 2 terms, and I've served on the Budget Committee all 8 years. My day job is the executive director of the New York Mills Regional Cultural Center, and I've learned a lot in that role as well, a lot about cross-sector partnerships, a true focus on community along with my work on the City Council, and how to deal with unpredictable budgets and financing, especially during the time that we're in now. I'm a lifelong member of Trinity Lutheran Church in New York Mills. I've been a Sunday school teacher and VBS volunteer. I'm an active volunteer on a variety of local boards, including the Civic and Commerce Association, the EDA, NYM 2025, and the Library Board. And I've also been involved in several county boards, including the Otter Tail Lakes Country Association Board, the OTC 150 Committee, the Otter Tail County Historical Society Steering Committee, and the Otter Tail County Community Development Agency Board. And really my involvement in those community and county boards that's really what motivated me to run for county commissioner. I really believe that Otter Tail County is the best place to live, work, and visit, and I think that we need to preserve and protect our assets and work toward continued progress and growth into the future. So really what I've learned from my involvement on those boards is that we need more workers in Otter Tail County, and in order to grow our workforce, we need housing and we need childcare. And to entice people to live here and work here, we need to be welcoming and inclusive to all of those who are willing to work and be productive members of the county. And we need to give them the tools and the support and the connections to do so. And this all leads to economic development, which then grows the tax base and keeps taxes low. I've got a lot of experience with budgets in terms of government, for-profit businesses, and nonprofit, and I've really learned to be fiscally conservative in order to balance those budgets. I'm involved and I'm passionate and I'm solutions oriented. I really believe strongly in finding commonalities and listening to people, learning from what I hear and talking about the issues to really come together to find those solutions. So I'm really, again, grateful to be here tonight to do some of that talking now. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, candidates. We'll rotate after each question, so our first question begins with Ms. RODER. Rather than beginning with studies and statistics, let's start tonight with a thought experiment. 2020 has been a challenging year for our region and for our country. The future is as cloudy as ever. But what do you believe Otter Tail County should be known for in the year 2050? Ms. RODER, you have 2 minutes.
Ooh, that's a good question. Right now, I think that Otter Tail County is very fortunate to have a lot of amazing natural resources. We're the county with the most lakes of any other county in the United States. And as I mentioned earlier, we really need to protect those assets and preserve them. And so I think by 2050, that should still be what we're known for. We are an area that's beautiful. There's so much opportunity to get out and enjoy the lakes and the woods and all of our wonderful lands. And I really think that in all seasons, you can enjoy being a resident here. I also think, back to my workforce comment, I think we need to continue to be a welcoming and inclusive area. We really need to grow our population. Currently, the population is going to be declining with the workforce, the workable ages, and so we really need to work to get younger people to move here, and we can entice them with all of those assets that we have to offer here in Otter Tail County. So I'd like to be a really welcoming, inclusive county that takes care of its natural resources, takes care of its businesses, its farmers, and its residents.
Thank you. Mr. BUCHOLZ, what do you believe Otter Tail County should be known for in 2050?
Well, the main thing in 2050 I would really worry about is the infrastructure of our roads. Back in 1960, when my father was on the county commission, they were taking gravel roads and making them into tar roads, and they were just making them for 5-ton roads. And now with the progression of the agriculture, we got heavier trucks out there. Everybody's using them rougher and tougher. and we got to get that going in the right way in 2050. As far as the lakes go, it's always going to be when I was in 60s, 70s, we were swimming in Little Pine Lake with turkey feathers. And today, it's clean lake, and you just got to stay positive on it, keeping our lakes clean. That's very important. And we got to get rid of these now hiring jobs around East Otter Tail County. There's way too many now hiring jobs, and we need jobs for all these people. And we got places for them to live, but we need to get those now hiring jobs full in 2050 so we're ready to go. That'd be very important. All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. For a second question, our counties...
Sorry,
Oh, I'm
can I respond to that?
Yes,
too?
absolutely, Ms. Roder.
Okay, I'm glad that Dan brought up roads. I agree that's definitely a priority for the county, and that is something we need to continue to be strategic about and pay attention to the age of the roads and the usage. And also, I think it's important that in District 1, where we get equal access to the funding for roads. I think that that's something I hear a lot that needs to be addressed. So thank you, Dan, for bringing that up. And I also think that the workforce, we really do need to address housing and childcare as well in order to get that workforce here.
Thank you. Mr. Buchholz, any further comment?
The child care thing is just, I've worked part-time in the construction guys in Perm, and that is probably their main concern right now is getting child care for their family. Their wives are working strange hours, and they're working strange hours, they have no child care for them. The results are the numbers are out there, they're just stupidly high. You know, there's 360 kids need available for childcare right now in Perm. That's way too many. How we're going to get that solved, I don't know.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to our second question. Our county's network of outdoor trails are a valuable recreational resource, and systems like the Central Lakes, Lake Wobegon, and Paul Bunyan State Trails connect Otter Tail County to areas well beyond. Since 2014, the county has planned toward a new trail system from Pelican Rapids to Perham. But the effort has had its controversy. How does the county develop this and similar projects while still respecting the concerns of property owners along the routes of these recreational trails? Mr. Buchholz, we'll ask you first.
Well, I've been out since May 28th when I had signed this little yellow piece of paper I was going to be a county commissioner. And that is probably the number one concern out there, what we're doing with Highway 34 and the bike trail. If we were growing up, we want a wants and your needs. We know we need a new road, but do we want a bike trail? That's when we were growing up, and now you got the hope factor in there too. But the wants and the needs are huge. We know we need the road, and the want is the bike trail. And to me, the start of that whole thing was handled totally wrong. You should have hopped in the car. The commissioner should have hopped in the car with the county engineer and said, "Hey guys, we're going to go down this road. We're going to tell everybody here what we're planning on doing in the future." Not hope and cross your fingers that eventually somebody's going to come to the Dent Community Center, the Perm Community Center, whatever, for a meeting. And the newspapers, put it in the newspaper, they happen to fly right by it. We can't have that. It's something that big of a deal. You have to go face to face and tell these people, we're going to do this. And try to tell people up in Butler and Corliss Township that we're building a $16 million bike trail. That's hard to sell over there when the roads are bouncing around and you can't drive machinery across it. It's a tough sale. So I don't know. It's a happy medium there, but what it is, trails are nice, but do we need it right now? I don't know. I would have said no. All right.
Yes, sir. Ms. Roder?
So I agree with some of the points Dan was making. I think, first and foremost, I think the project was not handled as well as it should have been. So I think that's a tough one to argue. It wasn't handled well. I agree. I think getting out and talking to property owners is absolutely necessary. The property owners that needed to have their land used need to be compensated for that. So that was not handled well at all. I also think transparency is really important. So getting out there and being open about what's happening and communicating is key. I do want to talk, though, about trails, and I do think trails are very beneficial to residents and visitors alike. They're good for health and wellness. They're good for people getting outdoors. They're good for economic development. They're good for tourism. So I think overall, generally speaking, trails are a very positive thing for the county. If you look at other counties in the state that have trails, it's always a positive thing. It just wasn't handled well. So we can learn from that now. The project, there's lots of opportunity for learning and do it different next time. And then I also want to clarify the funding sources. You know, that project had funds for roads and it had funds for trails, and those are grant funds that can't be spent on roads. So there is funding there that is only for trails. So it's not that choices were being made to do the trails instead of the road. It is a different funding source. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you.
RC.
Yes.
There they have listened to radio. Duluth has 12 miles of bike trails. Now Duluth, you know, everybody thinks that's, you know, sit out and look over the ocean or the lake, Lake Superior and hills and all this. They only have 12 miles. And we're going to do a bike trail from Perm to Pelican Rapids. Is probably, I don't know how many, you know, 6 miles to 35, and I don't know how far they're going to go the rest way. But that's all they have there. So I don't quite get this. You know, bike trails are good. I agree with Betsy here, but you have to draw a limit or someplace. You know, if we could just extend the road.
Sorry, sir. I have to cut you off. Ms. Roder, any further comment?
Just that we were able to add a walking trail in New York Mills in the last year. It's just a 1-mile loop south of town, and it's been a really positive thing for the community. So I think, you know, as a resident of District 1, I think people are interested in getting out and using trails. It just has to be handled correctly.
Sure. Thank you both. Otter Tail County has a history of division, and some old wounds remain. Even today, the county hosts both an East and West County Fair and features many other duplicated amenities between the East and West sides. But like our country, we have always been strongest when we work together. As a county commissioner, what role would you play in working toward greater collaboration amongst board members and ensuring all communities are represented and supported? Ms. Roder, you have 2 minutes.
This is a great question, and it's something I'm really passionate about. I think when it really comes down to it, we all have a lot more in common than we do that we have that divides us, and so that is something that I really focus on when getting out and talking to people. One of the things I've been doing during my campaign is getting out and talking to people through meet and greets. I have a Facebook page that I've been doing a lot of communicating virtually. I have gotten my phone number and email out, and I've really been hearing from a lot of people. And I've heard about all different issues and all different sides of issues. The trail was the last question. I've heard people on both sides of that argument. So I really think listening to people, being open-minded and willing to learn is key in all of this. And I think if we can all start from that place where we all live in this county, I think everybody wants to have a good and happy life and enjoy all that we have to offer in Otter Tail County. So if we start with that, I think we get a lot further. We can decide, you know, there are certain things that we can agree to disagree on. I'm a big fan of civil discourse through the Cultural Center. We have the Great American Think-Off every year, and that's all about civil debate. And the idea is to really, truly listen to each other and try to find commonalities and reach points of agreement that will move us forward.
Thank you. Mr. BUCHOLZ, your thoughts?
All right, I'm a supervisor of Gorman Township. I went to supervisor school, I don't know how many years ago already. First thing we walked in there, the guy who was teaching the class, hold up one finger. He goes, "You're only the one guy on this board. There's 4 other guys on this board. So until all 5 of them don't get along, we can go nowhere." You know, Road 1, if I want a new road past my place, and the other 4 don't want it, well, I guess I don't get a new road past my place. So we got to work together with all this. If they want a new road in their part of the country, we got to go ahead and help them out too. So we have to be more amongst us 5. So like, you know, I'm not going to run this county by myself. We're going to help the other 4. And we got to do it that way. There just has to be communication amongst all of us. Even with the bike trail, there's 4 other commissioners on this thing, and wherever they stand on it, I don't know. You know, but we have to get unified on this whole works. Otherwise, it's, you know, we're just going to do it, keep on hitting ourselves in the head on the whole deal. That's the main one I got to say about that.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to attempt to squeeze in one more question here before we go to our final questions, but to do so, we're going to have to allow 60 seconds for responses to this last question. So, the final question is, the cities of Northeast Otter Tail County are on the grow. Since 1990, Perham has increased its population by more than 50%, and New York Mills by 30%. What can the county do to support the growth of small towns in District 1 and the rest of the county? Mr. BUCHOLZ, we'll ask you first. You have 60 seconds.
Well, we have Dent and Richfield in there, and Dent is, you know, they're very progressive over there too. They have, you know, their town baseball was something for those guys forever, and they live off it. They were having state baseball tournaments in that town, and Richfield's the same thing, you know, when they lost their general store, but they kept on getting some other stores in there. is, perm is just progressive, period. That's all we can talk about. Those guys are always on the ball. They're one step seem to be ahead of everybody. They always want to get going. And it's a community effort there. There's no doubt about it. In the early 70s, we had some pretty big hitters there that saw this coming, the Nelsons and the Topkins and whoever else. They saw this coming and they said, okay, we're going to keep this town going this way. And they sure did. And it hasn't stopped yet with all the industry and we have there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Roder, you have 60 seconds.
I agree. We're very fortunate to have wonderful communities in Otter Tail County and particularly in District 1, and I think very unique communities as well. I think in terms of the county support, we really need help with infrastructure. Through the Otter Tail County Community Development Agency, we have a couple programs going on now that help with housing, and that will help support that growth. So we have the Big Build, which is the goal to build 5,000 new housing units by 2025. There's a tax rebate program in place for building new houses, and that's from the county and from participating communities. We built a new child care facility in New York Mills, and to have continued county support on additional facilities like that throughout District 1 and the county, I think would be really helpful, as well as broadband access and support of education. These are all things that we need to continue to be able to grow our communities, and the things that the county can continue to support us on. I also have roads written down, of course, equality. We need to have access to those funds for the entire county.
Thank you. Our final questions are a little different. Excuse me. The next questions will be for each candidate individually, and will focus on their campaign in particular. I want to emphasize the intention of these questions is for the candidates to demonstrate their strengths despite challenges. The time limit will remain the same, though there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So we'll begin with Mr. BUCHOLZ. Mr. BUCHOLZ, 2 months ago, you were one of but 2 candidates to survive a heavily contested primary. Still, your campaign came in second, with the gap between yourself and your opponent at roughly 100 votes. So what have you done, and what will you do in the next month to raise your campaign's awareness to ensure a first-place finish in November? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Well, with the virus thing going around here now, it's been a really tough game. I'm telling you, when we started in May, and just to get out and get a hold of people and talk to people to make sure they would get out to vote in August was a huge, huge chore. And everybody asked me, how come there's so many people running for county commissioner? There's 6 of us. I go, hey, there's 8,000 people in this town, or in this county, first district. That means there's 7,994 people that didn't want the job. There's 6 of us who wanted it, and we want it bad. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. So now we got 4. We had to narrow it down to me and Betsy, get it down to 2. And it was really a tough game out there just to get people out. I'm used to shaking hands and kissing babies like the old days, I can't do that. So now I went up with a sign thing, and we're campaigning all over, putting signs up. Every sign I put up, I sat and talked to these people. That's the main thing I've been learning now with this county. People want to talk, and people want somebody to listen to. It's just huge out there. You stop and put a sign, ask me if you can put a sign in your yard. Next thing you know, you're having a half-hour talk, having a glass of milk, and you're drinking coffee with them. It's just, the people want a commissioner to listen to them and do something about it. If we're gonna, that's where we are in my Gorman Township, that's where I am. They call me and we get it done, and we do it, we don't wait on it, we're gonna do it now. And that's what I'm all about.
Thank you, sir. In 2018, the Otter Tail County budget was $105 million. Now, Ms. Roder, it's fair to acknowledge your experience in local government, but what prepares you to oversee funding of that size, and how will you ensure your vote represents the desires of your constituents? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll go back to my experience in budgets. I have been fortunate to be involved in budgeting for the City of New York Mills, as well as when I worked at Target headquarters, I worked with budgets, and as well as the New York Mills Regional Cultural Center. And I've learned a lot in those roles. I did inherit a deficit budget when I was at the Cultural Center and worked hard to cut costs and run lean. And I have turned that, with the board and the staff, we have turned that financial picture around. I acknowledge that is a big budget on a county level, but, I think I would take the same, the things that I've learned from my experience on city council would apply at the county level as well. Understanding which departments within the county, are priorities, understanding how to do the things that we've talked about in protecting our assets, and really listening to people and considering the long-range strategic plan. That's a process that's been going on for 2 years. That's going to really help guide the county in terms of what the budget dollars are going to be spent on. And also, growing the economy, again, really spreads out that tax base and allows us to keep taxes low. So it's all about growing the economy and managing the expenses in the budget in order to really serve the people of the county. I do want to address the Otter Tail County District 1 residents. I very much would be representing all of the residents of District 1. I've been working to get out to township boards, to all 4 of the communities in Otter Tail County District 1. I've had meet and greets in all of them, and I've been working to connect with people. And I really think listening and learning about what the priorities are in those 4 communities in the 13 townships and truly representing all of those residents is really important to me as well.
Thank you. And thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for closing statements, and following our order, Ms. Roder, you have 3 minutes.
All right, well, thank you again, RC, and thanks to Dan, the Fergus Falls Daily Journal, Layton Broadcasting, PEG Access Television, all of the residents out there who are listening in and making an effort to become informed voters. Thank you all for supporting this event tonight. I've been working pretty hard to earn people's votes in the last couple of months, and I believe I'm the most qualified candidate for this role. I've talked a lot about my experience tonight with budgets and being knowledgeable about the county issues due to my involvement on county boards. And I really think it's important to bring a new perspective to the county board. I'm a working mom, and I come with a lot of experience, and I think it's important to have those different perspectives of people that have been around for longer, but people that have those new perspectives as well. I'm really dedicated to fairly and equally representing all of the District 1 residents, as I just talked about. And I'm really humbled by all there is to learn from the residents of Otter Tail County. I'm ready to listen. I'm grateful for the engagement and the patience as we can work together on solutions. I've been fortunate to talk to a number of people through this campaign process and have already learned a lot just in these few months. And I really want to encourage people to get out and vote. I want you to do your research on your candidates, learn about each candidate, and vote based on your values and how those line up with the candidates and their qualifications and experience. Voting is a hard-fought right, and we really owe it to the generations of advocates before us to get out and exercise that right. So make a plan. You can visit mnvotes.org. You can call the Otter Tail County Auditor's Office. I actually voted early today, and it was very simple. So I encourage you to look into voting early in person or by mail, or vote on Election Day on November 3rd. Once again, thank you, everybody. Please do contact me if you have any questions. I have my information out there on Facebook. I will welcome phone calls and emails, and just really appreciate the opportunity to get out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roder. Mr. BUCHOLZ, you have 3 minutes, sir.
All right. Thank you again, RC, for having us here tonight. And well, my main issue here, after talking to all the people in the district, is the main concern of a common sense and get the job done, fair-minded. Like I have a postcard here that it says that I'm connected, purpose-driven, and fair-minded, and I'm a common-sense conservative. And I'm a retired dairy farmer committed to working hard for entire district, dedicated to maintaining lake and land quality. I live on a lake. I've been dealing with the lake people for land and resource managers for, I don't know, for how long. For people need, tonight I'm supposed to be at a variance committee tonight. One of my neighbors is building a garage, and he needs my permission to go ahead and do it. It's just, that stuff never quits over there. So we have to get a stop to that kind of stuff. And I've been a very active Gorman Township official. I live on the lake, like I said. We have a kind of like a petting zoo. All summer I have goats and sheep, and kids, grandma and grandpas bring their kids over, and we show them the farm, and then we sit and talk to these guys. There's some of these people that are, the county commissioner from Moorhead's there. He comes over and visits. The Marco executive comes over and visits, and he says, "Farmer Dan, you'd be a great commissioner." And I said, "No doubt, I'm not going to argue with you." He goes, "You sit and you listen and you talk to people." And he goes, "That's so huge nowadays." And we have to have that kind of people in our government. And I'm a hard-working guy. I got plenty of time to do it. I was thinking about running for commissioner when I was 50 years old. 23 years ago, but my kids are growing up, and that time you don't get back. So I just put it on hold, and I went start back seat in the Gorman Town supervisor, I was always, everybody needed a problem on Little Pine Lake, I'd be there, they'd come over and ask Farmer Dan, what are we gonna do? What should I do? I direct them the right way, and we got them solved, and they're happy. And that's exactly the same thing I plan on doing here for the whole county. And thank you for your time. Vote for Dan Buchholz, and get milk.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, candidates. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for Otter Tail County District 1 Commissioner, but there's more to come. We'll take a brief 2-minute intermission as the next candidates take the stage, so stay tuned.
Should I keep that? Thanks, Betsy. Good luck. You're thinking about it?
Okay, thank you. You're not blowing the mic out for this time? You're not blowing it out for this time? Okay. Welcome back to the final night of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. In the last 30 minutes, we witnessed Dan Buchholz and Betsy RODER in the race for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 1. Now we turn to Kurt Mortensen and Christine Tungseth in the race for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 3. Candidates, as the rules for this debate remain unchanged, we'll waste no time getting started. Once again, we ask that you please be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and to the audience. With that said, Mr. Mortensen, you have 3 minutes on the clock for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Kurt Mortensen, and thank you to the Fergus Falls Journal, Leighton Broadcasting, PEG Access, and KBRF for arranging for this forum here tonight. Thank you for the City of Fergus Falls for hosting this event, and thank you to Ms. Tungseth for participating here tonight. My wife, Heidi, and I live in rural Underwood in Torrential Township. We have 2 adult children. Our son is an engineer. He and his wife have 2 young children, and they live in the Fergus Falls area. Our daughter is an RN at a hospital in Fargo. My wife and I are blessed to have family near, but also to live in a county such as Otter Tail County. To live in the county with the most lakes of any county in the entire nation is truly a blessing. I have the unique experience of growing up my entire life in District 3, except for my years in college. I graduated from Underwood High School, went on to the Fergus Falls Community College, then went on to Moorhead State University, and later graduated from the University of Minnesota Law School. After law school, my wife and I needed to decide what we were going to do next. Having both of us been from this area and grew up in this area, we desired to move back to this area and live on a family farm that was homesteaded by my great-grandfather in the 1800s. That opportunity came when I started working for 3 district court judges in Otter Tail County. A short time later, I accepted a position in the Otter Tail County Attorney's Office as an assistant Otter Tail County Attorney, where I worked for over 28 years. During that time, I was involved both in criminal and civil areas of law, At times, I advise the county board on legal issues. I'm sorry. I also worked with many county departments and most department heads, gaining an understanding of the functioning of each of those departments. As a prosecutor, I also worked closely with law enforcement and came to appreciate the role and the great function that they serve in our community. My decision to run for county commissioner was a bit of a journey. After it was learned that John Lindquist, the current commissioner, was no longer running, I received a number of calls asking me to give consideration to this position. After receiving a good many calls and giving it strong consideration, I made a decision to run for county commissioner, and since I made that decision, I've never turned back. As commissioner, I will work hard to make informed and reasoned decisions in the best interests of the citizens of Otter Tail County. In doing so, I will draw from my years of experience in the Otter Tail County Attorney's Office in making decisions and applying values relevant to Otter Tail County citizens. I respectfully ask
you, sir.
for your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 3 minutes.
I would like to thank RC and PEG Access for hosting this debate, as well as the Daily Journal, KBRF Radio, and my opponent Kurt Mortensen, and the audience for tuning in. My name is Christine Tungseth, but most people call me Tina. My decision to run for Otter Tail County Commissioner hasn't been a hasty one. It's one I've thought about for years due to my interest in county government. My husband Darrell and I would often discuss local, county, state, and national issues. We were concerned about the decline in integrity of government and the impact it would have on Christian and rural values for future generations. I remember Darrell encouraging me that when I got close to retirement from my position as a sergeant at the Otter Tail County Correctional Facility, where I am still working full-time, so he encouraged me to run for county board, and I haven't forgotten those conversations. While an Otter Tail County employee, I've been involved in committees such as the Otter Tail County Labor Management Committee. Presently, I'm on the Insurance and Benefits Committee as well as the Wellness Committee, and I have been on those for years. In addition, I am the Law Enforcement Labor Union Steward for the Corrections Supervisory Group, so I'm familiar with negotiations. Previously, I earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of North Dakota in Business and Public Administration. Later, my husband Darrell and I ran a successful farming business for 38 years on his family farm of many generations in Otter Tail County. We had dairy cattle for 22 years, so I'm very familiar with hard work. And then we took on beef and grain farming, so I'm familiar with land, water, and farming issues. Darrell also served on the Fergus Falls School Board for 9 years, which he loved doing until he died in 2017. This last year, when John Lindquist announced he was retiring, I was asked by several friends if I thought about running for District 3 Commissioner. I prayed about it, and I know that God opens and closes doors, but in order to get the answer, you need to walk through it. So I did.
Thank you. Our first question, we'll rotate the order again so that we'll begin with Ms. Tungseth. We'll start with the environment. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, and more than 1,000 of those are located in Otter Tail County. What role should the county play in preserving these natural resources, and what ideas do you have for improving our lakes, rivers, and streams? And Ms. Tungseth, I'll ask you to just pull your mic just a little closer to you so the audience can hear you well. Perfect, thank you. You have 2 minutes.
I've been going door to door, and I've been talking to a lot of people. And one of the things I'm finding out from farmers and also from people that live on the lakes is that we have some big water issues. I know that it has gone to the one watershed and one plan, but I think that this needs to be developed further. There are many issues, and so we This is something that I've been reading and looking into, and we need to be listening to our communities, and we need to look at more of a comprehensive plan. But I think this is just in the infant stages right now.
Thank you. Mr. Mortensen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I certainly agree that the lakes in Otter Tail County are one of our most significant assets that we have. Because of that, we need to take steps, reasonable steps, to protect those lakes. We have a Land and Resource Office in our county, which serves part of that purpose, which enforces reasonable regulations to ensure that setbacks from lakes are followed and that erosion into lakes is limited. And we have to continue that effort. Also, invasive species is something that the county has to continue. That task force has to continue doing its work to educate the population on what can be done safely with watercraft going in and out of lakes to prevent the spread of the different types of invasive species that can happen. Also, the county is taking steps on a strategic long-term plan that looks at the attributes of the county and looks at what needs to be done to protect these assets. And I've had the opportunity to be a part of that committee for over a 2-year process. And certainly the lakes of Otter Tail County is a priority in reviewing the values that that we need to consider in protecting our county and keeping it as it is. It's crucial to tourism, and now we have bike trails that can further expand the interest of our lakes out into the community.
Thank you, sir. For our second question, District 3 represents a number of small towns with populations under 1,000 citizens, cities like Underwood, Dalton, Rothsay. Public improvement and infrastructure projects can be challenging with a smaller tax base. What will you do to ensure these areas are well represented in county planning? And Mr. Mortensen, we'll begin with you. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Certainly the health of small towns is an issue, particularly now with COVID-19 and the limitations that have been placed on businesses. Our restaurant industry is feeling that implication. So small businesses need to be protected in this matter. I know the county currently has, through the CARES Act, I believe $7.2 million that's available generally, and a portion of that is available for businesses to address the struggles that they're going through currently. I believe there have been approximately 218 applicants to receive assistance through this program. I believe the limit on that is $10,000 per applicant. That is one way that the county can assist in reaching out currently. But in the long term, the county certainly needs to factor in the small communities in their strategic long-term plan looking into the future. What can the county do to assist and grow the economy of the small towns? Infrastructure is a piece of that. Certainly increasing high-speed internet is a piece of that. Expanding broadband throughout the county is a piece of that. All that can allow for both industry and business to expand in the small communities and also in the rural areas. We see a lot of remote working from home as a result. Businesses have learned that they don't need all the bricks and mortar. What can the county do to assist that becoming a reality?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 2 minutes.
Basically, I agree with what Kurt was saying regarding broadband. That's such a critical thing that we need to get, going in the county. And there is the CARES funding. I know that the county has put up hotspots different places, and the school has also given school children hotspots. But we need to do more. Due to all the unrest in some of the bigger cities, we are seeing the opportunity to to have some people from the cities move our direction and work remotely. And if we have broadband, this can expand our economic base and also potentially lead to some permanent residence, not only for people coming to their lake homes, but also people building new residences. And in addition, I'd also thought in terms of some of these smaller towns, if they have any kind of retail going on, we should encourage them to also venture into the online marketing. And if we have broadband in place, that would be something available to them.
Thank you. Farmers have been hit hard in recent years, and the COVID pandemic has added insult to injury. All of us depend on the success of local farmers to put food on our tables. With crop prices down and unemployment up, what role would you play in ensuring the success of Otter Tail County agriculture? And Ms. Tungseth, we'll ask you first.
Well, I think I've talked to some of my neighbors, and that is definitely a concern as far as what we can do to help them, particularly if they're trying to move things on so that their children can take over the farm. Equipment is so expensive. If we can work toward possibly some loan assistance so that some of the younger farmers can get going. As far as, as far as with these young farmers, giving them as much support as we can, probably financially, would be what we could do.
Thank you. Mr. Mortensen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Infrastructure is key to the agricultural community. The agricultural community needs to have the necessary infrastructure that it needs to operate and to operate efficiently and to continue that production. Certainly our roads and bridges are a priority to keep them in the state and the condition that will serve our agricultural community. I know there's been a challenge in Orwell Township with a recent bridge that's been out for a period of time that's soon going to be up and running, but certainly recognize the challenge that that's caused in terms of farmers taking alternative routes to bring their produce to market. As a part of my campaign, I've reached out both by phone and in person if people are comfortable doing that. And a theme that was that resonated in speaking with the agricultural community was the roads and how critical that is for the farming community. It can rattle equipment that can require costly maintenance, and that's just a real reality. And I know the county has a master road plan which sets priorities of which road needs to be addressed first. It's important that we follow that plan, but also listen to those who are dealing with the challenges. I believe it's Highway 81 and 60, and I could be wrong, but it's in Eagle Lake Township where there were several that expressed a need for some work there. So again, infrastructure, roads and bridges is a key for productive agriculture moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
I
Ms.
would
Tungseth?
agree with Kurt that infrastructure is very important, and I do support maintaining the roads because that's something that is critical to the farming economy. And so,
Okay. Any further comment, Mr. Mortensen?
No.
Okay. We'll actually take that notion a little bit farther. Like our first debate, we're going to attempt to squeeze in one last question before our final questions. But to do so, we'll have 60 seconds to respond to this question. So the question is simple. Ask members of the public what they'd like to see addressed, and few topics are more popular than roads, bridges, and highways. How will you prioritize spending to ensure our roadways are taken care of? And Mr. Mortensen, we'll give you 60 seconds, sir.
Certainly with the economic slowdown as a result of the response to the COVID-19, all governments will need to look at their budgeting with an eye towards improving efficiency of each department. And I'm aware this year that the county proposed budget for 2021, I believe is an increase of 3.1%. and that the levy increase is 2.7%. We can look at that and ask if that's a reasonable increase. I think it reflects that the county has negotiated labor contracts at 3%, so they appear to be hanging very close to that. Bottom line, you need the dollars in order to maintain the roads and the infrastructure that we're talking about. Responsible budgeting is a key to that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 60 seconds.
Well, one of the things, I do also agree that we need to be fiscally conservative. We need to look very closely at what we're spending money on. We talked earlier, or the previous candidates talked about the trail. Well, that trail is looking at $6 to $7 million. There were grants, but there was also, I believe, taxpayer match, which I think they would have to levy for. And to me, what I would view as minimal usage through some pretty difficult terrain, maintaining that is going to be a very expensive thing for people. We need to, as Kurt mentioned, look at each of the departments and look at efficiency of those departments. For an example, at the Sheriff's Department, one of the things that, because of COVID, we're doing less transports. Well, we're doing more ITV for court. With that being said, that's also a savings where that money can be used for other things.
Thank you. Once more, our final questions are a little different and will be for each candidate individually. The time limits will remain the same at 2 minutes, but there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So, Mr. Mortensen, we'll begin with you. Mr. Mortensen, one of the unique aspects of this race is the relationship that you and your opponent have, though from different angles, to law enforcement. As a county commissioner, you would oversee the largest law enforcement agency in the county. You've worked for years with the county attorney's office. So what changes, if any, would you work toward to ensure our courthouse and our sheriff's office are providing residents with the highest service in an era of increased scrutiny? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. It's been a privilege for me as a prosecutor to work with law enforcement over the years that I did. As I mentioned earlier, I respect the great role that they provide to our community in terms of public safety. And it is a challenge currently with the sentiment that has been expressed in some of the major cities towards law enforcement. Part of that has to do with a lack of education, I think, and increased communication into the public as to what law enforcement does is a piece of that. And I believe law enforcement looking at itself and reaching out in the community in ways that it may not have before can improve that. I think we're very fortunate locally to have a sheriff's office and a city police department that is involved in the community. They know what's going on. They're attending the events. They're attending the organizations. They're living in this community as families. And we reap the benefits of that in a small community, where in a larger community that becomes more distant. I think as a small community, we just need to continue to do that. Ask the questions if you have questions regarding what has transpired in any particular law enforcement interaction. They want to be responsive. They want to communicate their role to the community. They truly desire that this be a safe community, and they want to take reasonable steps to make that happen.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, you also have considerable background in law enforcement through your years in the correction system. Again, if elected, you would be responsible in part for supporting the county sheriff's office, courthouse, and county jail. How would you work with Sheriff Fitzgibbons to ensure our county patrol and correction officers are well supported, but also well trained and accountable? You have 2 minutes.
Well, it gets to be quite a complex issue. Barry is really easy to work with, and he's very progressive in trying to do things with the sheriff's department. But the county does have some serious issues with addiction and drug use, and we need to start addressing that. I work 12-hour night shifts, so I see this. And when I first started over 30 years ago, most people that came in that were arrested were they were working. We maybe saw alcohol abuse, but now very few are working. And the drugs and alcohol that are mixed, and also those that are coming in with mental illness, we have some terrific issues. And I have some, this is kind of after my own heart, I have some things that I would like to do to start to implement wellness in some of these people. And they would be taking some of the existing services and incorporating them to the jail and the sheriff's office to see some people have some success in life.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for closing statements. And following our order, Ms. Tungseth, you'll go first. You have 3 minutes.
I'm a pro-life Christian. I'm a strong supporter of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm a strong supporter of law enforcement and the Second Amendment. I'm also a member of the NRA. If elected, voters will gain sound leadership from a fiscal conservative who will listen to you, the voters. I pledge to study all information, talk with my constituents, listen, and work toward ethical, reasonable, viable solutions regarding county values and issues, while prioritizing tax dollars wisely. Voters will gain a full-time commissioner employed for a half-time position. I have completely funded my own campaign and have turned down donations. I will not be ingratiated to anyone who would hinder me from working for what is right, honest, and fair. Although the Otter Tail County Commissioner position is bipartisan, I've been informed by the Otter Tail County Republican BPOU that I have been selected as the recommended commissioner candidate for District 3. My father served in the United States Army for 22 years, retiring with the rank of major. He felt called into the ministry, where he later earned his master's and doctorate in theology. He instilled in me the love of country and service to that country and my community. If I'm elected, I will serve Otter Tail County with dedication and integrity and work to make changes that make positive differences in people's lives and protect our rural values for future generations. Thank you to all the voters who took the time to tune in and listen this evening. I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, Ms. Tungseth. Mr. Mortensen, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for making this evening possible. Thank you to RC for moderating this event here today. During my campaign, I reached out by phone to residents in the district because of the health concerns of COVID-19. I listened to their ideas and their concerns, and I was encouraged by their kind words and their support. My decision to run for District 3 Commissioner is centered upon a desire to continue to move the county forward and to positively affect and impact the county's management of resources. I desire to work towards maintaining a high quality of living within the county through efficient and responsive budgeting, but also we need to adapt to the current challenges, the economic and the health challenges as a result of COVID. Otter Tail County is a great place to live. I want it to be a place where our grandchildren are raised. I want it to be a place where your grandchildren are raised. I want it to attract young families. I want it to attract business and industry. Often these go hand in hand. But to do so, we need affordable housing. We need quality daycare. We need to continue our high standards of education. To support business and industry, we need workers and the necessary infrastructure for those businesses. We need to maintain our roads. We need to maintain our bridges. Continue expansion of high-speed internet and broadband throughout the county. We need to offer options for active living for families of all ages. And certainly our lakes and our trails and our parks are a piece of that. However, we need to encourage growth in a manner that's consistent and compatible with our agricultural community. We need to provide them the infrastructure they need to operate productively. With the tight margins today, that certainly can be a challenge. But bottom line, we need to plan, and we need to plan taking all of these aspects into account. My service on the Long Range Strategic Plan Review Committee was an opportunity for me to offer input and to help define and change or have input to the direction of this county. The committee included stakeholders and citizens who were interested in the future of this county. It spanned over 2 years, and soon there will be a plan available for more public comment. I became involved in this even before I made a decision to run for county commissioner. I wanted to be involved as a resident so that I could have a part and some input in offering direction to the future planning of our county. I desire to continue in public service by serving the residents of District 3 and representing their interests on the county board. Therefore, I ask for your support on November 3. Lastly, I would like to thank Commissioner John Lindquist for his years of service on the board for all these years. However, his work is not quite done yet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 3, but the District 5 race is coming up. We'll take a brief 2-minute intermission as the next candidates take the stage, so stay tuned. The most important timing is the last one at 8:30. Okay. 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 Ms. Brown, Mr. Ogden, you don't mind to take your seat?
Hey, thank you.
Okay. And welcome back to the final event in the final night of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. In the last hour, we've heard from candidates for Otter Tail County Commissioner in Districts 1 and 3. Our final event, then, is between incumbent Lee Rogness and challenger Angie Brown in the race for Otter Tail County Commissioner, District 5. We welcome them to the stage now. Candidates, the rules remain unchanged, so we'll move straight to the first question. Of course, please be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and to the audience. We'll put 3 minutes on the clock, and as our order is alphabetical, Ms. Brown, you have the floor for your opening statements.
First, I want to thank RC, Leighton Broadcasting, and the Daily Journal for putting this all together. And thank you, Lee, for your service to our county. I am Angie Brown. I am running for County Commissioner of District 5. I moved to Fergus Falls in 1995. I attended both the Fergus Falls Middle School and Hillcrest Lutheran Academy. After high school, I earned my associate's degree from M-State. Then I transferred to MSUM and received my bachelor's degree in accounting. I have used my degree while working as an accountant for a school district, our local chamber, and a highway construction company. I would love the opportunity to use my degree to cut wasteful spending and to lower our property taxes. I am passionate about growing and improving our economy. When I graduated from college, I had to accept a job in a different town and a different county, over 60 miles away, because there was no place hiring for an accountant. I don't want that for our area. I want to bring larger businesses to create more job opportunities for those of us who already live here, but also to draw more people into our beautiful county. This would also help out our small businesses as well, as this would provide them more potential customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogness, you have 3 minutes.
First of all, I'd like to also add my thanks to the organizations that put this program together, the Daily Journal, Layton Broadcasting, and the television station for our community. And Mr. Drews, I appreciate you leading us in our discussions this evening. I am Lee Rogness. I have been on this community for nearly 50 years plus. I came to this community from my community in Iowa for my education, and I began my career in this community as well. I've had a broad experience in this community, and I appreciate the place in which we have and call home. I am married. I have a wife and 3 adult daughters, and they also live nearby, and we enjoy them as a family as well. We also have 6 grandchildren, and we enjoy them as well. That gives you a perspective of our family life. I would also indicate that I'm an incumbent, so I would ask ask the question, how did we get here? And I did not have a county commissioner in my bucket list. It was not something that was on my list. I was busy in my business, and at the time that Mr. Bob Block was the county commissioner, he had been the superintendent of this community, and he was a commissioner. He had made the announcement that he was not going to rerun for his position that coming season of election. And I became part of a group in the community that was kind of wondering who would be the eligible person to take his place. And I was not involved in all those conversations until I found out that the community itself was asking who they might ask, and at that time I became that person. I did not take great interest in that, but I did study it, and I found out that there were some things about it that matched my personality and my style and my experiences. And with that in mind, I did enter into the preliminary race, and primaries were finished, and I became one of the candidates, and I moved on to the election period and did become an elected county commissioner, and I have found a great experience in that opportunity. We'll cover some more of those probably in our questions, but that gives us a brief summary. I appreciate having our candidate with us tonight, Angie Brown, and I just met her tonight, and it's a great opportunity. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, candidates. We'll rotate the order after each question, so our first question begins with Mr. Rogness. 2 months ago, the League of Minnesota Cities distributed a press release warning of reduced local government aid funding, LGA, as a result of the state's projected $4.7 billion deficit for the 2022-2023 biennium. LGA is, of course, critical for the operations of cities in Otter Tail County, and reduced funding will have consequences. If elected, how would you ensure the county board focuses its efforts on the projects of greatest impact in light of possible deficiencies at the state and municipal levels? Mr. Rogness, you have 2 minutes, sir.
I believe the question that you proposed before us is one that we're going to continue to see, and that is cut funding. And I serve on the board of MICA. MICA is the Minnesota Inter-County Association, and we received the same word at that meeting that the funds for the state were being cut. The funding was being not where it used to be, and there was going to be some shortfalls, and we became aware of that. And as we became aware of that, we brought that same message back to our county, and during our budget preliminary work that just completed here a couple weeks ago, we took that into consideration, that we would see a cut in that funding, and of course we had to accordingly fit that into our budget, and so we have addressed it, and as we put the total budget together, that has been addressed, and we live in hope that we not be cut, but we live in the reality that it might happen.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brown, your thoughts?
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly. Ultimately, the question is regarding the state deficit that is projected for 2022 to 2023 and the effect that that will have on LGA funding for small cities. So, if elected, how would you ensure that the county board focuses its efforts on the projects of greatest impact in light of those possible deficiencies at state and municipal levels? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first, I think we would definitely need to talk to the people. We would need to see what they feel is important for funding. Also, The bike trail, probably not something that, you know, we should be throwing a whole bunch of money at right now when we're low on funds. And then also, I mean, you have to make adjustments. Otherwise, our property taxes are already continuously going up and up and up. And that's not what people want. They want it to decrease. So we need to make sure that we are being, you know, conservative with our spending, cutting wasteful spending, so that way that can go down, because we don't want to see that increase yet again next year just because they need to cover the spending they want to do. So,
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Rognus?
I would just point out that the bike trails and the LEG monies probably are not the same dollars that we would spend. The grant monies that are used for the trails, and the LGAs are for operation of the county's operations. And that is the function of the county board, is to be the agent for the state of Minnesota and to carry on the business that the state expects to happen in this county. So that's our responsibility, and those monies probably would not be so much mixed.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
I do, I mean, I know that part of the bike trail was grants, but it was matching grants, so that is also at taxpayer expense. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. For our second question, one of the greatest challenges for young families, especially single-parent homes or homes in which both parents work, is finding reliable, affordable childcare. What role can the county play to support childcare providers and ensure every family can afford to work? Mr. Rognus? I'm sorry, I have that backwards. Ms. Brown, we'll ask you first.
Okay. What role the county could do to help childcare providers? I guess, the providers, we need more of them. I guess I've never been a childcare provider, so I'm not exactly sure, if there's difficulties in obtaining that license. But you definitely still need to make sure that they are qualified. So we need to kind of push that, hey, you know, we want you to do this, let's make this good for you. But at the same time, they are watching your child. So you need to do your due diligence to make sure that they are going to care for your child and not put your child in harm's way.
Thank you. Mr. Rognus, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Child safety is paramount in any of these situations, and what the county can do would probably be what the county has been able to do, and that is we have sought opportunities to work with the communities of Battle Lake. Battle Lake has a nice child care facility. Otter Tail County was involved in it through various organizations of the county. And also, we heard tonight about New York Mills has a new facility. And also, we have a task force that looks at the economic development in our communities, and that is part of the consideration is child care. And child care is very much a need throughout our county and for our young families. We also are looking at the model that is used. The model of the past possibly, and still is being used, is to do it in your home. And we're looking at models that have taken some of the restrictions that would have to be done to be in a home and put them into a new environment where they can share spaces and provide care for the individual children, but done by a care provider that's licensed and meets all the qualifications and the regulations that are necessary for a child care facility.
Thank you, sir. For our third question, District 5 is unique in Otter Tail County in that it is made up only of the city of Fergus Falls. But while the commissioner of this district represents this one city, they also represent the county as a whole. So, if elected, how will you reach out to constituents throughout all 5 districts to best represent the county's needs in its entirety? And Mr. Rognus, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for the question, because that is an issue that I'm very aware of. The state of Minnesota says that there will be 5 county commissioners in each county, and they will be elected by a district that is of equal population, and that's why we, as you just pointed out, District 5 is basically a good share of the city of Fergus Falls, with a couple slices on the side missing and are in part of other districts. I have made it my point to stay in constant contact with the city of Fergus Falls, who is my particular district home base. But also, I do take and frequently get phone calls from other parts of the county, because we make it well known that we are a county commissioner, not a district commissioner. And there's a big difference in that. And so I represent the county of Otter Tail, elected by a district, and that is the important issues of concern that we represent all, because that is how the state of Minnesota is asking us to perform in our responsibilities as a county commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brown?
One very important thing would be that the commissioner meetings be open to the public speaking again. They, starting, I believe it was the beginning of this year, the public was no longer allowed to speak, and that was even before COVID. So that's extremely important. If you're going to hear from the public, they need to be able to talk. But also, I am available to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. Phone number, email, Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm open to talk to everybody. But it is extremely important that the people be able to express their, feelings on things, and they can't do that as well if they're not allowed to do that at the commissioner meetings.
Thank you. Mr. Rognus?
I think what Angela Brown is referring to, there was a period of time that we went through a board reform on how we dealt with the public, and we did institute a plan where at the beginning of the meetings, they would be able to speak, and that was put in together just before the COVID came along. The COVID did not hamper that. We still take and do receive information from the residents of the county. So it's a matter of how we do it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brown?
With that meeting, though, the commissioners didn't have to even respond or acknowledge the people that are talking, and it doesn't even need to then be addressed in the meeting. So I do feel that it is important for the people to be able to talk in the meeting. But also, the people aren't even being able to stay really informed very well unless they can go to the meetings. With the taking down the YouTube videos, as soon as the meeting's done, people can't even stay informed of what's going on unless they can make it to the meetings. And that's not okay.
Thank you both. It was news last month when Otter Tail Power announced a new, nearly 50-megawatt solar farm on their existing and soon-retired Hoot Lake coal plant location. A renewable energy development of this size is uncommon for the county, and the sub-50-megawatt output means the plant does not fall under the Minnesota Public Utility Commission guidelines, leaving the city, townships, and county to ensure that the environment and neighboring homes are given proper consideration. How important is renewable energy to the future of Otter Tail County? And how will you ensure, if elected, that projects like this and those in the future are handled in the correct manner? Ms. Brown, we'll ask you first.
Could you repeat just the last bit of that? I'm so sorry.
Certainly. So the question is about renewable energy projects.
Yes.
And in the case of a project like this that does not fall to state scrutiny with the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission and is thus in the hands of townships, the city, and the Otter Tail County Board of Commissioners, how would you, as a commissioner, ensure that projects like this and those in the future are handled in the correct manner?
I would leave it up to the experts. I'm not an expert in that area, and I'm not going to pretend to be. But, if things do seem to be going wrong or not appropriately, then definitely we would need to address that. But I'm not an expert in that area, and I would hope that the people that are doing it are. So I would leave it up to the experts, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rognus?
Yeah, thank you. That's a tremendous announcement for our community. Renewable energy is not only enjoyed by our local community, but it's enjoyed by the patrons of Otter Tail Power in this situation, and we're going to see additional renewable energies throughout our country. In this particular case, you state that it'll be controlled by the city, townships, and the county. In this issue, I think the city of Fergus Falls will take the lead on it. It's the unit of government that will manage it. There will be requirements as to environmental impact studies and so forth that will be part of this. There will be a conditional use permit requirement, undoubtedly, and there will be a process of how this will be put into place, which will give the opportunity to the public to make comment, to speak to the issue, and as well to have a good project and a good project for the replacement of the tax base that it was going to be replaced by the Hoot Lake plant closing. This will be a good project for our community and for the nation as well.
Thank you, sir. Again, our final questions are a little different and will be for each candidate individually. I suspect that you all know the drill by now. The time limits will remain the same at 2 minutes, though there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So we'll begin with Ms. Brown. Ms. Brown, you've run your campaign on providing a voice for Fergus Falls in the county. You've argued for more responsible spending and new business growth. You've said that our county needs, quote, fresh blood and new ideas. Still, while your opponent has been long serving on the commission, you, however, appear to have limited political background. So how have you prepared yourself for this challenging role, and how will you overcome that inexperience to hit the ground running in November?
Well, you are correct. I do not have political experience. I do, however, have experience in all the areas I will need experience to get the things done that I want to get done. I have experience in government accounting, I have experience in budgeting, and I have experience in dealing with businesses from when I was working at the chamber. And those are the things that I will need experience in order to get the things done that I want to get done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rognus, your opponent is calling for new blood in our district's leadership, and you've served for 12 years in this capacity and gone uncontested in the last few elections. And election season always brings up the conversation of term limits for politicians. What would you say to voters to assure them that your candidacy hasn't grown apathetic to their needs? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I was looking forward to retiring from the seat that I hold, but I was again met by a number of people, and I'm going to deal with that in my closing remarks. But we do need new blood, but what we really need is refreshed blood. And I think I consider myself a person that continues to refresh. When I was in my business, I had to make my business current for the time. I had to sell the right equipment that the farmers needed at the time. I also needed to be fresh on policies, practices, and do everything I could to engage our employees. And in this case, I will look forward to the blood of 2 other commissioners, so we'll have some new blood. And my blood will be refreshed as we go back into this. This has been a good process to go through a re-election. I was asked to rerun, and we'll talk about that, but I feel that we can come to this and we can look for fresh ideas, because I look at my first years on the commission and I look at the years most previous. We do not operate the same. We're constantly renewing ourselves, and if we do not renew ourselves individually, we will be stale and old and very traditional.
Thank you, sir. We actually have a couple of minutes to spare with this debate, so we're going to squeak in one extra question. And it's going to be a simple question. The question is this: in your opinion, what defines a leader? And Ms. Brown, we'll ask you first. You have 2 minutes.
A leader is someone who can admit when they're wrong and take direction from those under them if things aren't going right, but can also stand up and say, okay, this is what needs to get done. This is what we have to do. We've got to do it. It's pretty simple. I mean, you've got to be kind and compassionate, but you've also got to be kind of dominant at the same time.
Thank you. Mr. Rognus, you have 2 minutes. What defines a leader?
I will not use 2 minutes. I will define a leader as the person that climbs the tallest tree, sees what's ahead, and hollers to the team below, this way.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for your closing statements, and following our order, Mr. Rognus, we'll have you go first. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, again, our thanks and appreciation to the organizers of our meeting tonight, and for the opportunity to meet with Angela Brown and to discuss very briefly what is all happening in Otter Tail County. I mentioned just a moment ago that I thought that I would not be running again this year, and to my dismay, soon, long before the refiling was necessary, I started to see some people that came to me. I meet with people frequently, and there was tremendous concern that I would not run this coming election period. And I thought, well, that's just in passing. But they continued to speak to that issue. They talked about my experience level as being broad, probably as broad experience as any of our county commissioners. I come from an agricultural background. I come from a business background. I work with nonprofits. I'm on the board of directors for nursing homes and care facilities. I serve on a number of commissions for the county. I'm on the Community Development Association. I'm on the Housing and Redevelopment Association. And there's a lot of other organizations that I'm on because of my interest in caring for people, caring for the processes. And I appreciate the fact that this is a nonpartisan organization, that we do not have to declare our political positions, and that gives us the opportunity to sit down and get to business. We don't experience any gridlock. We don't experience any differences because of our party. And we're able to move forward and address the issues that come before the board. I told the people that I worked with when I first was elected, they asked me what my ambitions were, and I said, I really don't have any ambitions. I'm going to go to the meetings, listen to the facts, examine it, ask the experts in our organization for the information they would need, and I would make a decision. And that has been my process from the beginning, and I think I'm going to continue that because it has served our county well, and it served myself well, and it certainly has met the approval of a number of people that have encouraged me to rerun, and for that reason I'm here tonight, and I speak to that, and I ask the voters to, if you want me to do it again, I'll do it, and I guess in fact if I am going to do it, I do want to do it, and I have made that commitment, and I've made it with my family, and we're here to move forward.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brown, you have 3 minutes for your final remarks.
So again, I want to thank you, RC, and the Daily Journal, PEG Access, and Leighton Broadcasting. Again, thank you all for putting this together. Thank you again for Lee for doing this, having a little chat with me tonight. To the people of Fergus Falls, I want to be your voice. From 2014 to 2019, Ottertail County had a business growth rate of just 2.1%. Douglas and Becker counties, they had business growth rates of 7.6% and 5.5% respectively. Our population growth rate since 2000 is only 2.7%, while Douglas, Becker, and several other counties of similar size have a population growth rate of 15 to 18%. Our property taxes have increased by 26% in just 5 years, and more regulations and ordinances are being put in place. This is not what the people of Fergus Falls or of Ottertail County want. I want to improve our economy by bringing in businesses that employ a larger number of people, and in turn, help our small businesses by increasing their potential customers. I also want to fix our roads, lower our property taxes, stop the over-regulations, and most importantly, let the voice of the people be heard. Thank you for your time, and I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd or before, so we can start working together on making our county even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you, candidates. And thank you to all of our candidates for participating in these debates over the last 3 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the conclusion of this evening's debates, the final part of this election year's events. A reminder that you can find recordings of tonight's debate and the prior debates for Fergus Falls City Council, Fergus Falls Mayor, Minnesota District 8 Senate, and Minnesota District 8A Representative on the podcast section of the AM 1250 KBRF website at www.kbrfradio.com, on the Fergus Falls Daily Journal Facebook page, on the PEG Access Television Fergus Falls YouTube channel, or rebroadcasted on local channels 8 and 18. A quick thank you once more to our sponsors, the Fergus Falls Daily Journal, Leighton Broadcasting Company, and PEG Access Television, and a quick message from our sponsors. A reminder that you can subscribe to the Daily Journal digital and print editions by visiting their website at www.fergusfallsjournal.com or by stopping into their new office within the historic Carnegie Building at 125 North Union. And check out their app, available on the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. You can catch this event on Leighton Broadcasting's AM 1250 KBRF, but make sure to check out their sister stations, Real Rock Z103.3 FM, 96.5 FM, KJ Country, and Channel 977 FM. And of course, catch this and more televised coverage of local news on local channels 8 and 18 from PEG Access. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and we hope to see you all at the polls. Thank you so much for spending these last 3 weeks with us, and we hope you found these events valuable. Until the next election, thank you and good night.